Welcome to Nick's Nerd Network Cosplay Tips. This is my very first cosplay tips episode, and I'm really excited to share it with you and share some of my experience as a cosplayer. So let's get started. Now, if you're just getting started on the cosplay scene, it can be very intimidating. I haven't been doing cosplay for very long. I just started probably within the last 2 or 3 years. I started off transitioning from going to Halloween parties and things like that and really getting into the costumes. Now, your first couple of cosplays, they're not going to be perfect, and don't get overwhelmed. If you look over at my examples over here, you can see my Cyclops costume. Yep, that's duct tape and an Under Armour shirt and a trench coat. And you can also see my Magneto costume. These were some of my very first cosplays. They weren't the best, but they were my first tries ever. Magneto, this was my first time ever working with EVA foam, and it was really complicated and hard. I wasn't sure how to attach things. And these are two costumes that I'm not particularly proud of, but learning skills working on these costumes got me to where I am, which is mediocre. And that's okay. So, these are cosplays that I'm probably at some point going to try to do a redemption of and do better versions of those. And if you look at this Magneto cosplay, that helmet is made out of cardboard and paper mache. It is very lumpy. It's not polished at all. So, I'm going to help you prevent making some of the same mistakes that I made, which is not having the materials or the know-how or knowing where to go to find the pieces and parts of the costume that I needed in an affordable manner. So let's look at this broken up into steps so that we don't get overwhelmed. Step number 1 is choosing a character. Now, when you're choosing a character, you're going to want to choose a character that you're passionate about or that you somewhat look like or you feel somewhat connected with. You don't want to just pick a character for the sake of it's an easy costume. But when you're doing your first cosplay, you're going to want to pick something or some character that you care about that has some relatively simple things about them that you could already have or easily buy or easily make. So once you've decided on which character that you want to be, that isn't overly complicated because you don't want to do something too overwhelming your first time. You're going to get frustrated really easy and you're going to get burnt out trying to make something, and you're going to have to buy a lot of new tools and things to make stuff that you don't necessarily need to make, and it's going to cost you a lot of extra money. Now, I picked the character Neptune from Rwby, and if you haven't watched that show, you should really check it out. It's really good. It's an American-made animated show, but not getting too far into depth with that. Maybe I'll do a video on it in the future. This character, I picked him because he is really, overall look and stylistic-wise, simple. And in step number 2, we need to identify what are the characteristics about this character that are most important or most identifiable. Because you want people to know who you're portraying. If you just have basic pieces and parts, people might think that you're anyone. And it might get confusing, and you'll get really frustrated at Comic-Cons or different conventions when people don't know who you are, and it kind of makes you feel bad. Nothing is more satisfactory than someone pointing at you and saying, I know who you are, that's my favorite show, or I really like that character a lot, can I get my picture with you? That is like the biggest rewarding part of cosplay for me, is people recognizing me, appreciating what the costume is, and wanting to take a picture with me. That's like success for me. So, identify. Let's look at my reference picture for Neptune. So, let's start at the top. He has blue hair. He has goggles with yellow lenses. It's very specific. He has a nice red, slightly formal looking jacket with some different black accents on it. He has a button-up white undershirt, a black tie, and if we move down to the hands, he has some fingerless gloves. And then he also has blue jeans. He has some leg guards. He has tennis shoes, and that's pretty much it. So with step number 3, we need to identify the parts of this character that we already have, because you want to save money and you want to identify, you don't want to waste money on things that you already own or things that you could easily modify into something that would work for this costume. Now, I don't have blue hair, I don't have goggles. I do have a white undershirt and a black tie. I also have blue jeans, and I also have black tennis shoes, which is kind of this majority of the costume. Now, you're going to have to buy some other things. That's going to bring us to step number 4. So, in step number 4, you need to determine what are some items that you don't currently own that you don't think you can make on your own. Now, when I made this Neptune costume, I did not have any goggles, I did not have a red jacket, I didn't have leg guards, I didn't have fingerless gloves, I didn't have blue hair, and that's pretty much the majority of the costume that we haven't already figured out. So, things that I could potentially make on my own are the leg guards. I could make those out of EVA foam. What I can't make are the articles of clothing, because I'm just now learning how to sew. I don't expect all of you to know how to sew. So let's look at what we can buy. If we look at the blue hair, I recommend going to Walmart or Party City, especially during Halloween times. If you're planning cosplay over the course of a year, it's always good to stock up on different colors of hair paint, or you can look online to see different wigs. Great places to look for wigs that I've seen so far are Amazon, eBay, and Etsy. A lot of them have some inexpensive wigs. Some have some pre-made cosplay wigs for specific characters. They tend to be a little bit more expensive. The more you can find like a generic wig, the better. If it's usually titled with someone's character, it's going to be expensive because they know you want it for something specific. I settle for blue hair paint because I'm not a big fan of wearing wigs. I do have a couple for costumes of hair types that I don't have, but he has short, somewhat spiky hair, which I have short hair, so I could manage with some blue hair paint. So I buy that from Walmart. Now, the goggles I found on Amazon. I started looking for specific characteristics of the goggles when I was searching for them, and there's yellow lenses. So yellow lenses aren't super common in goggles, so I found a pair with yellow lenses. They were black and not silver. I will eventually paint them silver when I have some more time, but that was an easy modification that I could use to take a cheap pair of $10 goggles and turn them into what I need. So then we'll move further down, the red jacket. Now, you might think it's going to be difficult to find a jacket that looks exactly like this, and you're right. You're probably not going to find something that looks exactly like this. And unless you're going to buy a pre-made costume by someone else that's going to be cost upwards of $100 to $200 for a costume, you're going to want to find something that you can use that's inexpensive and make some modifications. What I did is I checked on Dress Lily. Dress Lily is a wonderful, wonderful shop online that you can find cheaply made clothes, because you're not going to be wearing these out in public or anywhere fancy. You're wearing them solely for the purpose of your costume, so it doesn't matter if they're cheaply made. And I got this jacket, as you can see over here in the picture, for about $15 on Etsy. And it wasn't that expensive. Now, Neptune's jacket doesn't have a hood in the back, but I can easily hide that behind me. What it has is the red. It zips up part way where I can see the white undershirt and the tie very easily. It has some of the black accents, and it looks very similar to that somewhat athletic, businessy kind of look that he has. So I bought the jacket, and I located the black leather fingerless gloves that I wanted on Amazon. There was a lot of selection there. I chose to get some with metal knuckle covers on the inside, because honestly, you never know. When you're cosplaying or walking around at night, people might try to mess with you, and that was an easy adjustment to have if I ever need to defend myself. And plus, it gives you a cool, defined knuckle look, and it makes you look a little bit more animated and a little less bony, as if you had my real knuckles showing through there. So step 5 is making the parts of the costume that you don't want to pay money for or you don't already have, and that's the leg guards for me. So the majority of these things I was able to buy pretty cheaply or already had. The leg guards aren't something that most people just have laying around. And to buy pre-made pieces of armor tends to be a little bit expensive because it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, and they don't sell well, so they don't mass produce them. Now, I made my leg guards out of EVA foam. For those of you who aren't familiar, it is the puzzle piece looking foam gym mats that they use at gyms. And I cut the shape for the leg guards out. I made it layered by putting 2 pieces of foam on top of each other and attached straps. And I hope to do some actual tutorials of how to do this on future videos. But you can also look up tutorials on other channels for now to see how to do this. I put straps on and I hooked those up to my legs. I didn't need to have any sewing. I actually used staples to attach the straps to each other and then hot glue to attach the straps to the foam. Step 6 is putting the costume all together and going to a Comic-Con and showing off what you've done. I didn't put my costume on as much as I wanted to. I'm running a little bit low on light blue hair paint, and I have a Comic-Con, actually 2 Comic-Cons coming up in the next 2 weekends, so I need to save that paint for then. But if you look over here, I have pictures of myself wearing the costumes at past cons, so you can see how it looked all coming together. And it was a relatively simple and inexpensive costume to put together. Since I owned most of the things already, I really only ended up spending around $50 to make this costume. Now, if you were to buy this costume pre-made at different websites or like eBay or Amazon or Etsy, it cost about $200 to get this costume pre-made. So I saved a lot of money by making these things on my own or just purchasing a few small key items. I hope to eventually make his weapon, which is a gun that turns into a trident. I'm not at that skill level yet, so we're going to see how that goes. And what's great is I developed a lot of skills making this costume. I discovered Dresslily.com. I also discovered my ability to work with foam, and I can use those new skills to work on bigger and tougher costumes later on. But I hope you found this helpful. I hope this helps you get excited and started with cosplay. Remember, your first time, keep it simple. Learn a few skills each cosplay that you do, and don't bite off more than you can chew because you'll get frustrated. I've done that with costumes before, and you'll end up looking like this. Nobody wants to look like that. Alright, thanks so much for tuning in. This is Nick signing out. If you like this episode of Nick's Nerd Network, please like and subscribe. If you have different opinions or would like to share some of your ideas, please share these in the comment section below. Please keep it constructive and friendly. Thanks so much for watching and have a wonderful day.